This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Gee, it's chilling footage, isn't it, all these years on? And of course, that was the terrible news that was later confirmed, and September 11, 2001 became forever etched in history as the day America, and indeed the world, changed forever.
And in the years since the World Trade Center attacks, several conspiracy theories have emerged, and now one man plans to find out the truth once and for all.
Yeah, American businessman Paul Salo joins us now from Bangkok, where he now works. Paul, good morning to you. Firstly, what are some of the concerns around what really happened on 9/11?
Oh, hey, thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm less concerned about what theoretically happened, and I want to see what actually happens when you recreate the event. So when you fly a plane at that speed, at the speed that we're going to attempt into a building, and see actually what happens. So it's not about, I guess my project is not so much about thinking, like, hey, who did it? Maybe somebody did it, maybe somebody didn't. You know, we don't really know. You know, as a lot of people know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist myself, but I think this is a very, very seminal event in many people's lives. In fact, some of the best minds of Australia were in that building, right, and passed away. So I think it's a worthwhile event, and it set in motion war in Iraq and many, many things. So I think it's a worthwhile event to find out more about what happened, what actually happens in that situation. Because obviously there's a lot of conspiracies that it wasn't an airplane. You know, there's so many different things, that it was a controlled demolition is what a lot of people think, that there was explosions that caused the building to fall down. And you know, you can see why some people think that, because obviously it's a very tall building, 109 stories, and to fall straight down is actually not that easy. It's more an art than a science, demolition of large structures like that. So there are people that have some doubts, and I want to just go ahead, and we want to do our best attempt to recreate the physical part, right? Obviously, we don't want to recreate the mental anguish, but just the physical part. We want to see what happens, so that either we can see for yourself what happens either way. And I think we have the right to do that. We have the right to know.
So I'm assuming from all that then, and you're doubting whether the Twin Towers could have collapsed simply from the crashing of a plane into the building. You want to try to simulate that impact. How on earth are you going to do that?
Well, basically, a lot of people will say, you know, obviously these buildings were built in 1971 with a particular steel, and the structure was very unique, actually, because they built it to be very robust to take an airplane. Obviously, they didn't envision a 767 extended range airplane that we have now, but back then they did the best they could, right? This was a very, very solid structure, and there are people who will say, like, it's impossible, right? It's like, you know, you can't recreate the time, you can't recreate the moment, you can't recreate the underlying ground. And what I say to these guys is, what choice do we have? We have two choices, really. We have two choices. One is to go to Starbucks, have another coffee, and think about it. And the other one is to actually try to recreate it, you know? So we're going to do our best. We have a team of aeronautical engineers and pilots who are very professional, and they're ready to do their best to recreate this exactly as it was. Now, obviously, we can't have the same building. We can't go back in time, but we can do our best to find a structure. And there's two parts of it, basically. There's the airplane part, and there's the building part. The airplane we can recreate almost exactly. A 767 extended range aircraft still exists, obviously, and so that's probably 70% of it. The other 30% or 40%, whatever you want to call it, is the building. We're going to do our best to get a structure that is close as possible to the World Trade Center. But, you know, basically it's like, do we want to try something to see what happens? You know, obviously there's quite a few people worldwide that doubt. That's why there's a show like this right now, is that there are people who doubt, who wonder, and they want to see for themselves. I think some very rational people too would like to see what happens in this situation.
All right, Paul, we're going to have to leave it there, but I'm sure there's a few people who'll be fascinated to see where you go with this, so we'll make sure that we've got the details on our website of how that all goes forward. Thank you very much for your time this morning.